As the campfire crackled in the silence, I could hear something else breathing deep within the forest. If you have the courage, stay with me until the end of this story. Welcome to Nightmare and Fear. I bring you disturbing camping horror stories, straight from the darkest corners of the woods. Don't forget to subscribe. It's completely free, and I'm aiming for 500 subscribers. Join us, because the next nightmare might be yours. My name is Ethan. I'm 24 years old. And even now, some nights, I still wake up thinking about what happened at that camp. Last summer, my friend Mason and I planned a 2-day camping trip, far from the crowds, deep in the forest. His grandfather told us about a clearing surrounded by old sycamore trees, saying no one ever went there anymore. It sounded perfect. The journey there was peaceful. But once we stepped into that clearing, it felt wrong. The weather was fine, but the air didn't move. No birds. No insects. Just trees that looked like they were hiding something. That first night, as we sat by the fire, Mason suddenly fell silent. He was staring at one of the trees. "Someone's watching us," he whispered. I laughed. "Come on, we're alone out here. Probably a squirrel, or your imagination." But then, I felt it too. That sense. That overwhelming feeling that we weren't really alone. Like something was standing just beyond the light, breathing, waiting. Not moving. Just watching. As the fire started to die down, Mason went to the tent. I stayed a little longer, watching the shadows. That's when I heard it, scratching. Not from the bushes, but from inside one of the trees. I grabbed my flashlight and got closer. A massive crack ran down the middle of the sycamore. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't. But curiosity is stronger than fear. I shined the light into the crack. And what I saw? A single eye. Staring back. Human-sized, but not human. Still. Blinking. Watching me. I stumbled back, heart racing. As I ran toward the tent, I heard them, whispers. Dozens of them. From all directions. By morning, Mason was gone. His tent was open. His things were untouched. But he was nowhere to be found. I ran to the tree. The crack was sealed. But the bark was marked with fresh scratches, like nails had dug into it. And lying on the ground, Mason's camping knife. The handle was wrapped in strange symbols, letters I didn't recognize. I reported everything, but Mason was never found. The search team gave up after a week. And now, I don't camp anymore. I don't even go near the woods. Because sometimes, I see it in my dreams. That eye. Watching me. From the corner of my room. And every morning, there's dirt at the end of my bed. Next time you hear something outside your tent, make sure it's just the wind. Don't forget to subscribe to Nightmare and Fear. It's free, and I'm almost at 500 subscribers. Until next time, sleep with one eye open. As the last sparks of the campfire faded, the mist slowly rose from the lake. But true silence begins where the voices start. If your heart can handle it, stay with me until the end. My name is Lucas. I'm 29 years old, and a wilderness guide. Have you ever returned to a place and felt more alone the second time? 2 years ago, I led a student group to Fog Lake for a weekend camp. This year, I decided to go back with a new group. The lake was the same, but something was off. There was no breeze, yet ripples formed across the water. And there were no reflections. No sound. Not even birds. That first night, the mist rolled in fast. Thick enough to hide the entire lake. Then Clara, one of the students, said something that froze my spine. "Lucas, someone from the lake is calling me." She was standing near the shore, still silent, gazing into the fog. But the chilling part? Her voice didn't come from where she stood. It came from the middle of the lake. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to Clara screaming. I ran to her tent. It was empty. Footprints led down to the shore, but none came back. I grabbed my lantern and rushed to the lake. And then I saw her. Clara was in the water, chest deep, not moving. Her lips were moving like she was speaking, but no sound came out. Then, something pulled her downward. The water swallowed her like she'd never been there. And the mist? It was gone, like it had done its job. The next morning, the lake was calm. No trace of Clara. We called for help. Search teams came. Divers found nothing. Not even her footprint by the shore remained. But ever since, I still hear her. "Lucas, come into the water, come. There's something under that lake. The mist is just a veil. And each summer, it calls for someone. One voice at a time. Next time your campsite is by a misty lake, be ready to face more than the silence. Don't forget to subscribe to Nightmare and Fear. It's completely free. Help me reach 500 subscribers. Because the next horror might start with you." As the campfire crackled in the silence, I could hear something breathing out in the forest, something that wasn't me. If you've got the courage, stay with me until the very end of this story. Welcome to Nightmare and Fear. I bring you disturbing camping stories straight from the depths of dark forests. Subscribing is free, and I'm aiming for 500 subscribers. Who knows, the next horror might just be yours. My name is Owen. I'm a nature photographer. I work in silence and travel alone. Last October, I went deep into the forest to photograph an old fire lookout tower. It wasn't even marked on most maps anymore. The forest trail was barely there. GPS barely worked. But I found it. A rusted tower, still standing, but clearly abandoned. I was curious about what was inside, but first I set up camp. I'd shoot photos at night. That's when the atmosphere would be perfect. It was 11:30 p.m. The sky was cloudy, moonlight weak, perfect mood for what I wanted. I set up the tripod and prepared for long exposure shots. First frame, perfect. The tower looked like a ghost in the darkness. Second frame, something changed. There was a shadow in the very top room. At first I thought it was smoke. But it wasn't moving. It looked like a human figure. I got chills. Zoomed in. But through the viewfinder, nothing. The figure only showed up in the photo. I couldn't wait for morning. I grabbed my flashlight and headed toward the tower. The wooden steps creaked under my weight. The metal frame groaned in the cold. At the top, it was empty. But the dust-covered floor had footprints. Bare footprints. And not just one pair. Two. One large, one small. One heavy, one that looked like it was dancing. I went back to camp but couldn't sleep. I heard something brush against my camera bag. Grabbed my flashlight, went outside. Nothing. But my camera screen was on. It was displaying the last photo I took. There was a child, standing in the tower window. Facing me. Eyes black. Behind them, someone else. You couldn't see the face clearly, just the outline of someone grinning. I felt like I knew that face. But I couldn't remember where from. At first light, I packed everything. I wanted to leave immediately. But the GPS still wasn't working. I kept walking. But no matter which way I went, I came back to the same spot. The tower was always in sight. It was like the forest wouldn't let me go. When I checked my camera again, there were new photos. Photos I didn't take. One was from inside my tent. Another, while I was asleep. And one was a photo of me from behind. But that night, I was alone. As a last resort, I climbed to the top of the tower to try and get a signal. The forest below was covered in fog. Silent. Still. I turned around and snapped one last photo. I didn't dare look behind me, because I knew someone was standing there. And this time, I was the subject. If you ever go solo camping, don't just look through your lens. Look around it. Because some shots are already waiting for you. The campfire crackled in the distance, but I could hear something else breathing in the woods. If you've got the courage, stay with me until the end of this story. Welcome. This is Nightmare and Fear. I bring you deeply unsettling campfire horror stories straight from the dark heart of the forest. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm aiming for 500 brave souls. Because the next horror might just happen to you. My name is Tyler. I'm a sound engineer, always been obsessed with rhythm, patterns, and the power of quiet. But lately, the city had become unbearable. Too loud. Too digital. Too alive. I needed silence. Real silence. So I packed a tent, left my phone behind, and drove out to a remote patch of forest that wasn't even marked on the GPS. As I stepped into the woods, I immediately noticed something. The silence, it was too perfect. No rustling. No wind. No birds. Even my footsteps felt muffled, like the forest was swallowing every sound. That first night, I made a small campfire. I poured some coffee and stared up at the stars. It was peaceful, until I checked the time. 11:11 p.m. That's when it hit me. There was no sound. The fire didn't crackle. The wind didn't blow. Even my breathing felt muted. I clapped my hands, nothing. Snapped my fingers, still nothing. It was as if the world had hit mute. I couldn't sleep that night. I grabbed my recorder and headphones. I thought, let's capture this silence. The recorder stayed empty. No waves. No spikes. Just void. Then I heard it. 4 footsteps. Pause. 4 more. Someone, or something, was moving outside the tent in a strange rhythm. Deliberate. Predictable. Almost musical. But when I looked, there was nothing there. And still, the forest stayed silent. The second night, I found a note pinned to my tent zipper. Old stained paper. Faded ink. It read, "When silence is complete, so will you be. At 11:11 p.m., say nothing. Listen. Accept. Join." Was this some kind of prank? But as the clock struck 11:11, I froze. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just listened. And once again, the 4 footsteps returned. Closer this time. By the 3rd day, I wanted to leave. But the GPS was dead. No signal. No orientation. I was lost. I checked my recorder again. To my surprise, one file had appeared. It was titled, silence_complete.wave. I hit play. There was only one voice. Mine. Mumbling. Whispering. Speaking, in some rhythmic, ancient pattern I couldn't understand. Then at the end, I heard myself say, I belong to the silence now. A week later, a hiker found me. I was walking in circles near my camp, unresponsive, eyes open, but vacant. I don't remember that time. Just the first night, then darkness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital. They said I'd been gone 10 days. But every night since, at 11:11 p.m., I wake up. And I still hear it. 4 footsteps. If you ever crave complete silence, be careful. Some silences aren't peaceful. Some are hungry. Subscribe to Nightmare and Fear. We're getting close to 500. And the next silence might be calling for you. Sometimes at night, you don't just hear sounds. Some sounds find you. The mysterious whispers from the depths of the forest. If you have the courage, stay with me until the end of this story. My name is Ethan. I'm someone who escapes the city's noise every summer by going camping. This year, I found myself in a place called Echo Creek, almost off the map. I'd heard stories, but they sounded like the usual local legends. Something's wrong at Echo Creek, but no one knows what it is. When I heard that, I laughed. But I made a mistake. The first day, as I hiked into the forest, an old local approached me. He said, "Don't go there." He stared at me for a long time, then added, "If you do go, don't come near the creek at night. Especially at dusk, walk slowly, without making a sound." Then he quickly walked away. It was so eerie, but I just brushed it off. Horror stories, they're just stories, right? The first night, I settled by the fire, but something unexpected happened. At midnight, I heard the sound of running water. It was strange, because my campsite wasn't right by Echo Creek. There was a bit of distance between me and it. Yet the sound was so clear, like something was calling me. I got up and walked toward the creek, listening intently. But as I got closer to the water, I didn't hear the creek at all. Instead, I heard something else. A deep, rhythmic breathing. The sound felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. Something was out there. Something calling me. Then I heard it. "Don't go." The next morning, I woke up confused. The stormy night passed, and I noticed something strange. There were footprints around my tent. But they didn't lead to the creek. They just circled around, as if someone had been standing there but never walked away. Later that evening, I heard the voice again. This time, I ventured out, afraid but compelled. Near the creek's edge, there was a shadow. But the water didn't reflect it. Only a dark, moving figure. And it looked up at me. It took a step forward, then another. And then it called me. At that moment, everything froze. Just seeing that shadow paralyzed me with fear. By the third night, I was desperate to leave. But the GPS didn't work. No signal. I was stuck. I checked my watch. 3:14 a.m. That's when I realized something was terribly wrong. I had no memory of the night before. I wasn't sure where the time had gone. But there were more footsteps around my tent. The voice echoed again. "Ethan! Ethan!" A week later, I managed to return from Echo Creek. But the sound of the creek was still in my ears. The shadow's face called me again. I thought about going back to find it, but something stopped me. A voice inside my head warned me. "Don't go." Life returned to normal. But every night at 3:14 I hear it. That voice calling me. "Ethan." And I know. One day, the shadow will call me again. And this time, I'll answer. The whispers of Echo Creek never end. Because once you step into that place, You can never escape. Subscribe to Nightmare and Fear. We're close to 500. The next call might find you.